Cross-cultural theater. Cross-cultural theater, say that 5 times, mixes different cultures in an attempt to find understanding or commonality among them. It borrows contrasting ideas from diverse cultures and joins them in a single work. At its most basic, cross-culture plays borrow staging techniques from another culture to create a unique piece of theater. At its highest level, cross-culture theater is an attempt to fuse various cultural rituals, myths, and styles in order to find parallels between cultures, including those of writers and performers and those of each audience, and merge them in a performance that celebrates our diversities and similarities and promotes cultural pluralism. I feel like I've done some of these plays. I've worked with some Asian American playwrights, one named Chris Chen, and I'm actually not going to show you a Chris Chen play, so that was a terrible example, but I love him. But this other woman, she also is Asian American, and she did this show where it's called 410 Gone, and it mixed in like modern things, like we went to a kid commit her. So it's about a sister and a brother, and the brother commits suicide, so already sad, and that's why it's called 410 Gone. That's the code for when something is like gone in like coding. And he goes to the underworld, and she has the Monkey King, and he's there to meet her and this other goddess. But instead of it being like completely traditional, there's like a DDR board, which she has to like dance to for his soul. And like, it's just, there's bizarre like rotary phones that are there, and then like they're hanging out in a bathtub. So it's kind of like not exactly what you would picture as the underworld, but it kind of blends like some of her American culture and some of her other culture. All right. And then, so another good example is Japanese director Shozo Sato, who stages Western classics such as Medea, Faust, and Macbeth in the Japanese kabuki style. And also, fun fact, he was, if you like Parks and Rec or if you like Nick Offerman, but he was Ron Swanson or Nick Offerman, he was his, I guess, mentor in college. So he went to the same college, and then Nick Offerman went back and like built him a beautiful thing. You know what? I'll let you watch the video.
Sensei was such an influential part of my life, leaving my little farm town of Minooka, Illinois, where I grew up, and coming to college to begin a life of pursuit of performing as an artist was daunting in many ways, and to sort of fall comfortably nestled under his wing was a profoundly affecting blanket of security.
Our relationship is not like just plain school teacher and student, more of father and sons and daughters. We can rehearse until 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at Granite. And of course all the restaurants is closed. So they're all hungry, they all come to my house, and then we fix the meal and we eat all together.
And when I returned to campus and was shown this new Japan house and the beautiful grounds, I was incredibly grateful that this was happening, and that not only was the legacy continuing, but it was flourishing and had this beautiful new home. And just coincidentally, somebody said, I'm not sure if they've run out of funding or if they've run into some snags, but there's supposed to be a couple of wooden accessories here. And I immediately perked up and said, that's my department. I would be so grateful for the opportunity to give anything back to this institution that has taken such good care of me.
I recommend that how about gazebo or azumaya in Japanese. That is one of the key points in the Japanese garden where one can walk around, and sudden shower or very hot sunny days one can hide in the shade of the roof and then rest. So I sent him some of the traditional sketches of Azumaya existed in Japan. So from there, he created his own addition, and so become beautiful east and west are blended in Japanese garden.
Originally, when I was studying theater here, and I saw Shozo's designs for the stage and his designs for every aspect of the show, down to our makeup and our costumes and the lighting, I was really taken with how everything you make you can consider part of a picture. Anything you're placing anywhere, you can imagine it's part of the greater canvas. And so I tried to imagine this sort of like a painting, because I knew we'd be looking at it from across the pond as part of a landscape. And so I tried to let his teaching influence every decision I made, down to the choice of hammer. Beyond that, I knew I wanted a bench in the middle, and when I first visited California with Shozo, that was when I first experienced the redwood forests. I chose a redwood slab, and then I found a single curve of a redwood root. It reminded me of one stroke of a sumie brush. I wanted to add some beautiful Eastern influenced curves to it, and there are some great architects in California from the turn of the 20th century, the Green and Green brothers. And they took the craftsman style of the period and added these sort of Asian curves. And I thought emulating that would make a nice homage to combine the sort of Eastern and Western ideas.
Because of this rectangular design and this structure to be, and this openness, instead of just plain flat cement floor, I thought it needs some sort of design. And so this straight edge and straight columns are represented in straight line divided, but the pond is all curved line. So the nature is in a curve, and so I incorporated to that design of the curvature.
As he says, there's no separating your work as an artist and your life and your spirit and what is holy about it. And so for me, the theater is my church as much as any house of worship, and so this is a part of where I worship. My family has always been very active in the Catholic Church in my hometown, and I put in a lot of time there serving, and my parents still do. And it's something that my family does. Like whatever house is serving the community spiritually, we show up and cut the grass if they'll let us, or we'll shovel the sidewalk or whatever needs doing. To have the chance to create a gift, a token of my esteem and gratitude for my teacher is something that I'm incredibly grateful for, especially because it's something that will hopefully stand for many, many years to come.
American playwright Thornton Wilder, who spent part of his childhood in China, adopted Chinese staging methods in his masterpiece, Our Town, a drama about life and death in a small New England town. In the play, Wilder used a character of a stage manager narrator to invoke the imagination of the audience, just as Beijing opera uses the character of a property man.
This play is called Our Town. It's written by Thornton Wilder. The name of the town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts line. Latitude, 42 degrees, 40 minutes. Longitude, 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The day is May 7th, 1901. The time is just before dawn. The sky is beginning to show some streaks of light in the east over there behind our mountain. The morning star always grows wonderful bright the minute before it has to go, doesn't it? Well, I better show you how our town lies. Up here, along here is Main Street. Railway station's back there, tracks go that way. Polish towns across the tracks with some Canuck families. Congregational church is over there. Across the street's the Presbyterian. Methodist and Unitarian are over there, and Baptist is down in the hollow by the river. Catholic church is over beyond the tracks. Right here is a town hall and post office combined, jails in the basement. William Jennings Bryan once made a speech from these very steps right here. Along here is a row of stores, hitching posts, and horse blocks in front of them. First automobile is going to come along in about 5 years, belong to Banker Cartwright, our richest citizen who lives in the big White House up on the hill. Over there's the grocery store and Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to look into those two stores at least once a day. This is our doctor's house here, Doc Gibbs, and this is his back door here. Oh, here's some scenery for those of you who think you have to have scenery. This is Mrs. Gibbs's garden here. Corn, peas, beans, hollyhock, heliotrope, and a lot of burdock. In those days, our town newspaper came out twice a week, the Grover's Corner Sentinel. And this is Editor Webb's house here. And this is Mrs. Webb's garden. The same as Mrs. Gibbs's, only a lot of sunflowers too. And right here is a big butternut tree. Nice town. You know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever come out of it as far as we know. The earliest tombstones up in the cemetery, up in the mountains, say 1670, 1680. There's Grover's and Cartwright's and Gibbs's and Hersey's. Same names as around here now. So, like I say, it's about dawn. The only lights on in town are in a cottage over by the railroad tracks where a Polish mother's just had twins. And in the Joe Kroll house where Joe Jr.'s getting up so as to deliver the paper. And at the depot where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to flag the 545 for Boston. Naturally, out in the country all around, there's been lights on for some time, what with the Milkins and so on. But town people sleep late.
Vocab time again. We all see the world from our own point of view, and most people tend to think that their take on it, as seen through their culture, is the correct view. This phenomenon is called ethnocentrism. And here's a really fun comic that I think is interesting. Seeing through another's eye. Tony Kushner, who's a playwright we're about to talk about, Kushner grew up Jewish and homosexual in the turbulent South of the 1960s. He said he had a fairly clear memories of being gay since he was about 6, but did not come out until after he tried psychotherapy to change his sexual orientation. One of the most famous cultural awareness plays is Tony Kushner's Pulitzer Prize-winning Angels in America. Angels in America tells the interwoven stories of several gay men. Angels is the perfect example of a play that challenges the audience to think and calls their values into question. By doing so, it transmits knowledge, and with knowledge comes understanding. First performed in 1991. When Tony Kushner's play Angels in America came out, it was in 1991. And during that time, it was in the middle of all of the AIDS pandemic and epidemic, and so people were a little bit on edge about the whole thing. And that followed the play for a while. So here's one example of that. A similar incident occurred in 1999 when the theater department at Kilgore College in Longview, Texas, staged Angels in America. On the sold-out opening night, the building had to be surrounded by police because there were so many protesters. The play received a standing ovation, but a county commissioner revoked $50,000 worth of support to the Texas Shakespeare Festival, which was hosted by Kilgore College, but not by the theater department. So they just kind of rented out the space. The theater department didn't tell them to do it. The commissioner said that the county funds should not be used to support the arts because the arts are always controversial. The arts are not always controversial, but they can be when they attempt to foster understanding of differing cultural views within a society. And here's a quote from Tony Fisher himself. A healthy state needs vigorous, lively, pluralistic debate, not enforced acquiescence to bullying majority. Here's a little blurb about the NEA. If you remember, we learned about them in our last chapter. The NEA enriches our nation and its diverse cultural heritage by supporting works of artistic excellence, advancing learning in the arts, and strengthening arts in the communities throughout the country. Now we're going to move on to our curtain call. Curtain call. Cultural diversity is necessary for humankind as biodiversity is for nature. All right. Thank you so much.